Editorial page, 24th of July 2021. The Kashmir outreach and the Afghan storm. The government's J&K move may be part of a more complex regional game involving India's security interests. 2 years after its dramatic decision to reorganize Jammu and Kashmir, the government appears to be rethinking some of its objectives. It announced then as Prime Minister Narendra Modi engages the erstwhile state's former leadership to discuss the future of the political processes there. Mr. Modi and Home Minister Amit Shah had spoken of three specific objectives in the move to amend Article 370 on August 5, 2019. Apart from ending terrorism and violence in Jammu and Kashmir, flooding the region with development initiatives and investment from other parts of the country, reclaiming those parts of the territory now occupied by Pakistan and China. Pakistan occupied Kashmir (POK) and Sky Chin, and ending the rule of political dynasties in Jammu and Kashmir that they claimed had held the progress of the state hostage in favor of a Naya Kashmir policy. Above all, the government underlined as External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar undertook a series of visits abroad to explain its nuances. The decision was purely an internal one and did not affect India's ties with any other country. Objectives and reality. While 2 years may not be long enough to truly judge the success of its intentions, particularly given the impact of the novel coronavirus pandemic, it is certainly fair to say the government has failed to make headway with most of its objectives. Incidents of terrorism and violence have no doubt decreased since 2019, but that has come at a cost of massive privations to the people in the name of security. More than 5,000 people were arrested. The longest internal shutdown in any democracy was instituted for 213 days, and the deployment of troops still remains at peacetime highs. The plight of the ordinary Kashmiri, battling daily intimidations from security forces, the closure of schools and online education for their children, and diminishing sources of income can only be imagined. Attempts to convince investors that piece this is a lasting peace have floundered thus far. And while the government claims it has more than 400 memoranda of understanding from businesses nationwide promising to invest in the Union territory, this can only be tested once the money actually comes in, given the state and the national economy, even prior to the pandemic. Border situation. Mr. Shah's claim in Parliament that this government was willing to sacrifice lives to ensure the return of Pakistan occupied Kashmir and Sky Chin appears a much more difficult proposition in the face of the Chinese aggression at the line of actual control since April 2020. Chinese actions and the failure of military and diplomatic talks to ensure the restoration of status quo ante have been coupled with the growing threat perception articulated by the Indian Army Chief that any future conflict at the LAC would need to account for a two-level situation with Pakistan at the line of control as well as and vice versa. Even the United States is unlikely to countenance any military maneuver involving POK now, given its proximity to the Pakistan theatre and the US pullout and the increasing strength of the Taliban will add to the risk calculus in Delhi against such actions. Finally, the outreach to 14 leaders from JNK, many of whom were arrested for months, indicates that the government's plan for a Naya Kashmir polity is not drastically different from the previous polity. That the Home Minister referred to derisively as the Gupkar gang, despite intervening attempts at building a new party, sidelining the main parties during consultations and even promoting district development councillors as the new Kashmiri leadership during meeting with foreign diplomats. Hardly an internal issue. The government's repeated assertion that its August 5 decision on Jammu and Kashmir was an internal one and as was an internal one also been put to a right has also been put to a rigorous test. Despite considerable exertions by the Ministry of External Affairs and its missions worldwide, Jammu and Kashmir has now been discussed in more capitals, including the US Congress, parliaments in the United Kingdom, the European Union, and the Nordic countries, and even before. While several delegates of the EU parliamentarians, ambassadors, and United Nations diplomats have been escorted to the valley to elicit their approval for the situation there. It is ironic that countries which were openly supportive of the Modi government's military action in POK in 2016 after the Uri attack and of the Balakot strike by the Indian Air Force in Pakistan after the Pulwama attack in 2019 have even so chosen to be so critical of a political and internal move. In addition, the Jammu and Kashmir dispute has been discussed at least 3 times at the UN Security Council, which had not touched the issue since 1971. Dialogue with Pakistan. What is more galling? What is more galling is the notion that the decision to engage the previous leadership to discuss the restart of political process and the reversal of August 5 decision to downgrade the state to a union territory comes not from domestic considerations alone. In the past few months, it has been made clear that a back-channel dialogue between India and Pakistan is discussing assurance on Jammu and Kashmir that would enable a broader bilateral dialogue. Pakistan too has climbed down considerably from its previous demands of plebiscite and UN resolutions to Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan's more recent statements that he would be willing to talk if there was a reversal in some of the August 5 steps or if the Modi government proffers a roadmap on Jammu and Kashmir. Even Pakistan's insistence on the restoration of Article 370 was a turnaround from the days when it rejected the article's validity. Both the downtime in Pakistan backed violence in Jammu Kashmir as well as softening of rhetoric suggest a flexibility born out of international pressure as well as the sustained threat of a Pakistan blacklisting by the Financial Action Task Force. Such compromises by hawkish establishments in Delhi and Islamabad and Rawalpindi do not come from an internal rethink by themselves, and it would seem obvious that external prompting from the US keen to complete its Afghanistan pullout and its negotiations with the Taliban, as well as nudges from Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates, of the kind publicly referred by the UAE envoy as meditation, have been at work as well. The recent disclosure by the Qatari special envoy that Indian officials have engaged the Taliban leadership in Doha is also part of that matrix. The government's decision to shut down operations at two of its Afghanistan consulates in Jalalabad and Herat, which was earlier described as a temporary move due to the novel coronavirus pandemic, is clearly linked to safety concerns in the phase after the US pullout. The US factor. In the in the broader geopolitical context, as the drumbeats to a US China confrontation grew louder, India's global strategies will be further put to test. US expectations of cooperation from India to its east on China and Indo Pacific have clearly not been consummate with New Delhi's expectations that America would reduce India's threat to its west from Afghanistan and Pakistan. Instead, it would seem the government's attempts to serve the Gordian knot in Jammu and Kashmir with its move 2 years ago are being drawn into more complex game of regional dominoes where India's security threats are increasingly in play.